Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom Podcast. I've got Jared Zoneraich here, and he is the CEO, co-founder of PromptLayer. Welcome to the show. So what is your favorite prompt these days?
Ooh, my favorite prompt. Anything Claude Code, anything Codex. Trying to get it to making it research, think before acting. Something that's hard for humans too.
Do you think it's really reasoning? Do you think there's really reasoning going on, or is it a mirage of reasoning?
I I think with reasoning and intelligence and this whole question of does the AI think or not, I think I like the word mirage that you use. It's like it's reasoning in the way that it could trick humans to thinking it's reasoning. I don't think it's reasoning in the biblical sense of what
Oh, wait.
intelligence is.
Wait, what is the biblical sense
The biblical sense of, I
of
guess,
reasoning?
what is human? What is intelligence? I don't think it's
Got it.
that, but I think it's
Yeah,
something that maybe can be indistinguishable.
that's really interesting. And
I
so
like that
can
you
you
just got right to it.
can you share more about PromptLayer and the how it fits into Claude and what is it, Canvas? Did you say Canvas? No, Codex. You
Codex.
said Codex.
Yes.
Um, can you share more about that relationship to prompting and reasoning, and how your own unique sort of approach to intelligence is related to all those things?
Yeah. So we like to describe PromptLayer as an AI engineering workbench. Basically, we're the platform that people use to build and test their LLM products. It's kind of like AI development infrastructure.
Mm,
And how that relates to all this is I use Claude Code, I bring that up, I just use that for coding, for personal stuff. But if you were building a product like Claude Code, if you're building an agent, if you're building a
mm,
workflow, if you're just doing something with AI, PromptLayer is the tool to help you do it in a rigorous way, is the tool to help you
mm,
kind of scale out this work. And I think our core our core thesis of PromptLayer is that the best prompt engineers, the best, people call them context engineers, whatever you want
mm,
to call them,
mm,
the
mm.
best AI builders are actually not machine learning engineers. They're the people closest to the domain experts
Yeah,
here, and we're
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
scale their work, distribute their work.
Very cool. I love it. I agree. The subject matter experts, it's been something I've been doing a lot of research on. I would love to talk more about evaluations and what it means to do rigorous, but the sort of subject matter expert kept on is like immediately I want to go in there, because that is like, if I did a lot of work inside of this company called Invisible Technologies, and I was the director of knowledge management with Invisible, and Invisible provided RLHF, reinforcement learning through human feedback, to OpenAI and to a lot of the other big ones. Became aware of Scale AI, and then recently became aware of Surge AI, and that was very confusing for me, because I'd never heard of them the entire time I was working for them, and the reason was they'd never raised any VC money, and now they're raising $1 billion, and went on two podcasts, and and all three companies are trying to do this thing where they're trying to get all of human knowledge into this LLM, and they're doing it through human feedback, through reinforcement learning and some sort of combination of supervised fine tuning, all these different jargon out there. Um,
Yeah.
and they're doing all of that, and what are they? They're getting all of human knowledge into these things, but all of human knowledge, all of explicit human knowledge, because the implicit knowledge is still stuck inside of the subject matter experts, right? Like, a lot of it's out there in the explicit knowledge. Actually, there's a great question for you. What have you discovered about that line between implicit and explicit? How much of it can be absorbed by prompting and by these LLMs?
It's interesting, actually. I never thought about that split, implicit versus explicit. I think my mental model for it is more on the lines of like global maximums,
Mm,
meaning if you're okay, thought experiment, we have the best AI ever, AGI, whatever you want to call it. Uh, OpenAI's released it, someone's released it, and you want to build an AI therapy app.
mm,
It's not what is left for you to do is the taste aspect. Is that like if I'm going to a therapist, if I'm walking, I live here in New York. There's 5 therapists on every block. They all have different styles. You go to the
Yeah.
CBT therapist, you go to the meditation therapist, the acupuncture, and there's no global solution to the problem of therapy or a lot of these hard problems.
It's interesting to think about that. Like, what would a global solution to a problem of therapy be?
Maybe there is, and maybe some people would argue
I
it,
agree with you. I do not think there is a global answer to that question.
And this is the best example, but I mean, legal's the same. Even just a chat bot is the same, and in the same way, the subject matter expert, like you can build. I guess you're calling it this implicit knowledge of how the world works and kind of the foundation layer to build, I guess, a therapist. But then you need the direction.
And I think from that answer I got that there is no way to get the implicit, and it doesn't matter because you have the prompter with all of their implicit knowledge. That's what the prompter does based on their expertise of going out into the world and capturing data and then bringing it in through the prompt. You don't really need the implicit knowledge, and like businesses probably aren't. Do you agree with that? Do you think there's anything wrong there?
That seems right. I think there's maybe easier type of problems that it's good enough and you don't need the taste. Well, I guess maybe you just want a very simple customer support, like documentation support, and it's just taking in docs and answering specific questions. Even then, though, how long are the questions? What coding language are you responding in? These are all, I guess, choices.
And so you're building PromptLayer. How much of it is evals? How much of the rigorous prompting is based on evals, and what are the other components if it's not evals?
Yeah, evals is a big part of it, and it's actually I think it's a very timely question to ask now because there's a lot of discourse around, do evals matter? We've spent the last 2 years saying evals. Is anybody doing it? And I think they do matter. But I think there's kind of 2 modalities coming out of how people do evals. The first way people do evals is something rigorous. So it's basically whether it's a sanity check or it's a back test. It's like I'm running my prompt over my last 1,000 and I want to see how much they change. You need this if you're deploying to production. You need these engineering principles to not fly blind unless you're working on something more creative, or like AI therapy is a good example because maybe you just ship the prompt and it doesn't break anything, but it might degrade it slightly.
Interesting. Okay, wait. I gotta go into that. So you have subjective.
That's the second modality, but give me your question.
Like with a human with therapy, there's no way to test it rigorously because it's like there's no it's like a human being who's got the whole crazy life. But you talked about that other thing in the back end where prompts fail. And so you need to build that into the infrastructure. Is that accurate?
Well, I don't know if the prompts fail, but the general model you need to build into the infrastructure. Like the general model doesn't know. I mean, it could guess how to respond to the user with schizophrenia's questions, but as we've seen, ChatGPT is kind of not working for those type of people. And drove a lot of them a little bit crazy. But
I didn't understand so the model. What about the model fails?
I guess like the explicit understanding is not enough in these cases is what I was trying to say. And yes, you can actually build rigorous tests for those type of things. So let's take another example from therapy. Let's do note taking, summarizing a transcript or this podcast or something like that. There's also no global solution, global maximum solution. There's good summaries for some people. And how do you, and we've talked to a lot of note-taking companies and a lot use us, how do you eval the summary? And how do you make sure it's good and make sure it's not degrading? You basically, how you do it is you step back, and this is what we tell teams. You step back and you say, if I'm a human and I'm reading the summary, how do I test if it's good or not? Like if I hired an intern to write the summary, did they do a good job? And what that ends up coming to is different heuristics. So maybe the first thing is, well, it didn't make up anything. All right, so you got a hallucination check. Maybe the second thing is it used the right formatting. So now you have a bunch of these. A lot are LMS judge heuristics. Maybe you're just finding and searching for a specific word that it has. And
Yeah.
now you have a lot of these checks, and that's how you build eval, but it's pretty hard. And that's why not everybody does it.
Okay, so let's go to that second modality. What's the other modality?
Yeah. So this is what we've been. So I spend a lot of my time just using PromptLayer as a user and just dogfooding the product. And it's a lot of fun. And this is something I've been doing a lot. And then once I started doing it, I noticed a lot of our customers are doing this too, which is instead of building like, here's the golden eval that gives us a score back, which is great. A lot of people do that. A lot of other people just work in sprints. So they say, hey, let's say, give you another real example. Customer support agent that responds in the wrong language based on the user's name instead of the message. Okay, we have this problem. Now I'm going to work on a sprint to fix this problem. And instead of making a tried and true eval that gives them a score that they're going to run every time throughout history, every time they update the prompt, they kind of just bootstrap a data set. They basically say, grab my last 10,000 production requests. Then they maybe do an LM's judge. It's like, what language is this? And they're working in sprints, or like 1 week sprints, 1 day sprint, 2 week sprints. They're working in a kind of just projects. And the eval, the end result is not necessarily a final score, but it's just an exploration and a batch run of prompts. I don't know. I'm still working through this in my head, so if that didn't make sense, happy to clarify.
Yeah, sure. So I think I got what you said. Basically, there's a bunch of sprints. So somebody, like a team, you said you're doing it as well. So I want to hear how you're doing it. Where you're what are you working on for that 1 day or 1 week? Where you're doing the sprint, and how does that batch and the eval play into that?
Yeah, a few examples. Okay, first one I'll use my co-founder. I'll pretend it was me for this, but my co-founder, so in our product, our evals product is a batch runner. So you basically upload a data set of however many samples, you run a prompt or multiple prompts through it, and we have it's just columns like a spreadsheet. So we have a special column type, which is a LMS judge assertion, where you can just basically say, does it say this? And it gives you a true or false. A user reported that it wasn't giving the right answer for something. So my co-founder said, all right, I want to fix this. It's not giving the right answer for punctuation. So now we're using PromptLayer to fix it, which is kind of fun. And how he did it is he, again, bootstrapped with the last 10,000 production cases. He then ran basically 5 top models and on it to find all the hard cases where they might disagree with the output we got, and like find all the wrong cases, the regression set. And then he kept tweaking the prompt until it got all those right. So it's a little hand wavy, but that's kind of this world.
Yeah. So, well, and that gets into the probabilistic thing, which is funny because that's so strange to the world that came before it, which is the deterministic world, which I think is why a lot of programmers are having a lot of trouble switching over to this new world. And I think the new world isn't built by far. So you said backlog or backdata, or you're putting in these 10,000 things back into it. Can you explain what that is?
Yes. So our product has kind of 3 big pillars. It's the prompt versioning and the agent versioning, it's evals, and then it's observability. So every time a request is run, we log it, and it's useful for debugging, but also for running the backtest and replaying it on the last 1,000, basically.
Backtesting. What is backtesting in general? What is backtesting in the old world, and what is backtesting in this?
Yeah, so it's an old world. I like this, old world. It's an old world phrase in the deterministic world, where you would, I have my AI application live for 2 weeks, and I want to do an update, so I'm going to run the update on the last 2 weeks worth of data and see, did the outputs change?
Okay, got it.
Because it's really hard to build sample data, especially for a lot of these users. Like, the note-taking, how would you build sample summaries? It's pretty hard.
You either use synthetic data or you have real data.
Just use production data.
Just use production data. Okay, so this whole idea of backtesting is completely new to me. It's really interesting. I like the prompt versioning, the agent, and the observability. So observability is so crazy. I'm sure you have some interesting thoughts on it in general, because we basically have a black box problem with the models themselves, but that's not necessarily too new in the world of computing. It's pretty new in this way it is. But then we have the neuronal observability, which is like the neuron in the network and what they're doing to basically contribute to the entire neural network. And I think both are unknown. And you guys are doing observability. I imagine you're doing more observability as it relates to the versioning and the prompting and all that other stuff. What do you think on either three of those, the black box, the neuron, or the observability of the output? Anything interesting you're learning there?
Yeah. So to go back to this old world, new world dichotomy, I my background, I'm a hacker. I like to consider myself more like tinkerer minded than academic. And when like I never got myself to use a debugger when programming before in my life. And as much as maybe my professors tried, or maybe I'd hear about it, I'm always a print statement debugger. I'm always just try something, check something, and that is like, I think that's the way of thinking that works here. The people who kind of I don't want to say fail, but like it's harder for them to pick up this new way of building software are the ones who want to know how it works.
What's going on?
But yeah, and,
Yeah.
and what we tell people is you don't ignore
Don't
how
worry
the
about it.
model
Don't
works.
worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why the subject matter experts are often better, because they know they're not going to figure out how a neural net works, and they don't need to. And it's a black box. The really cool thing is it's an input to an output. That's all it is. You don't need to. One of the inputs is which model you choose, but reasoning is high, low, medium.
Oh, interesting. So I want to learn what you know about deterministic systems versus what you just said, because I usually when I try to tell people what a deterministic system is compared to a probabilistic system, I say in the deterministic system you have an input and you have an output, and you put the same inputs in and you get the output. It's usually the same. You have bugs. With probabilistic, you never know what you're going to get with the output. But you just said something about multiple inputs. Is that normal? Yeah, that's normal for a deterministic system as well, is to have multiple inputs. What's the difference between the probabilistic part and that part?
I guess when I hear deterministic, probabilistic, the way I think about it is like, when you have a really hard bug when programming, people always say, "Oh, it's non-deterministic, which it outputs," and it's usually not. It's usually you just don't know how it works, and you have to dive in pretty deep. And when we're working with LLMs, it's non-deterministic in a different way. It's not because we don't know how it works, although it actually might be because of that a little bit too. But it's also built on probabilities, and how that relates to the end user who maybe doesn't even need to care about that is it makes it more of a black box, not less. And when you're building things on it, you just have to say there's an input, there's an output. Maybe I'm not always going to get that output, but all I have control of is the inputs, and we're going to test it a lot of times. I think a customer said this to us once, a long time ago, actually, when models were like maybe a year and a half, not that long, but they said if you're not getting the right output all of the time, it's kind of a skill issue on the prompt engineer's side. Like you have to do better. You maybe use the prompt twice. Like there's ways to solve that.
What is the skill issue though? What is the skill issue that people have when not getting the right, like, because it's the garbage in, garbage out, but what is garbage? And what, like, when it comes to prompting, what is garbage? I have some guesses, but what do you think?
To me, different people will probably give different answers. To me, it's if I look at someone's prompt as a human and I have no idea what's going on, maybe the LLM will understand, but it's probably not a good way to build it. I mean, like, you can write software code that's hard to understand, and it's not a good way to build it for other reasons. In the same way that when I'm writing a prompt, I'm trying to make it understandable. I'm using section headers, and I think the LLM, I think it a little bit helps the LM too. And these are kind of mental models that might or might not be true. But there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
there's also this the LM idiom concept
Ooh,
that
I like that.
I like to think about, where I think there's certain idioms that, how do I explain this? If I reference a musician to you, it's giving you more
Mhm.
information than just the name of the musician, because
Mhm.
you're now thinking about his music and the vibe and whatever.
Mm.
In the same way, when I talk in JSON to the LLM or XML or in a specific
Mm.
syntax,
Mm.
it's putting it like, if I wanted to write a love poem, I
Mm.
don't want it to output it inside a code block, because the code block is code thinking. is the is the super non-technical way to explain that. And I don't know
Yeah.
if I can explain it in the technical way.
No, that's good. I get it. It's essentially it's the idea of context, and it's really interesting because a philosopher that I like to read, his name is David Hawkins. He talks a lot about context versus content. So we have content, what's in front of us, what our perceptive framework is able to kind of target on as an object, and then we've got the entire context. And the entire context can be visible context or it can be invisible context, meaning that we can essentially like inquire into what are the other frameworks I'm thinking about, and you get answers to them. And then there's invisible context, which is like the whole creation of the universe as it and all of time leading up to this moment, basically. And so it's really funny because I found out about that distinction between content and context a few years ago, and then GPT showed up, and all of a sudden it's context, 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 context. You got to get the context into this thing. That's the only way you're going to get good data. And it sounds like that idiom thing. It's like the musician Bach. Me just saying Bach has like
Yeah.
17 different pieces of context that go with it, or something like that. And so it's basically getting that into the machine and the skill issue. And yeah, this gets into the model. I would love to talk about vibe coding. Are you doing a lot of vibe coding?
Hell yeah.
Do you code manually still? Like what's going on there?
I don't, much to the chagrin of the engineers on my team who review my code. But
Well, so I just had it. I had it happen this week. We do our vibe coding courses every Monday, and I would love to have you come and teach one if you want to do it, or anybody on your team. And so that we do that course, and we sometimes we have programmers who are in there who want to learn how to do vibe coding. Just don't understand the AI, and so I sent. No, we had one other guy who's a chemist who we've been teaching how to vibe code, and he's now building applications. And that guy sent the other guy who's a developer a GitHub and the code, and he said the code was totally fine, like it was great, there was no problem. Is that a real thing, or is it just like a meme that coders say, like, oh, you got to spend 20 minutes vibe coding and then spend 5 hours debugging the vibe code? Is it real?
skill issue. It goes back to skill issue.
Skill
I
issue.
think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it,
Mhm.
if you're so I actually think vibe coding has changed how we do engineering at PromptLayer,
Mm, mm,
especially Claude Code, because it was OpenAI's Codex version is also really good now, but they're both kind of the first coding agent that you really can do hands off and are kind
yeah,
of built to not read the code for. And I'll answer your question about bugs
yeah. No, it was
in
great.
this explanation. The way it changed our company is uh, we're building a platform. So the platform has a lot of edge cases, and we're
Mm,
constantly getting user feedback of like, oh, I did this thing that you never expected us to do because it's a platform, and we have to fix it. And
mm,
we have to do two things. We have to build new features, but we also have to not die a death of 1,000 cuts and
yeah,
fix all those little things. And
yeah,
the hard problem in startups is, how do you prioritize?
yeah,
How do you figure
yeah,
out which ones to do?
yeah.
So now we have a rule: if it'll take less than an hour with Claude Code, just do it. And an hour with Claude Code, you could get a lot done. And it's especially helpful. I'll tell you, for me
Like
personally,
that.
as a founder who's technical but not coding every day at
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
the code base is moving too fast for me to keep track of.
yeah. It's
Claude
another
Code lets
black
me
box.
jump back. Yeah,
It's another black
exactly.
box. Yeah,
There we
yeah.
go. It's a black box, and I can just tell Claude Code, hey, there was an example of, we have an agent builder, and you could add conditional edges. And someone I know was using our product and told me, oh, I didn't even realize you could do the conditional. I'm like, okay, so let
Mm,
me make it a little more obvious. So I Claude coded to make that tooltip bigger and stuff like that. And I know how to do that, but I didn't know where in the code it is. So these tools if you use them right, are really good at understanding you can make them understand the context of the code base first. They're so much better at that. They're not going in stale like I would necessarily, or an engineer who's a front end engineer who needs to do back end, or vice versa.
Yep.
And it's not going to make you write bad code, but if you write normal code yourself and you're doing it at 3 a.m. after 3 beers, you're going to put bugs in too, and you're going to have to revise your code too. It's the same thing. It might be a little more harder to steer, but no, we fully embrace it here. We made everyone use it.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea. I doubt any company is going to survive very long unless they're doing that. Unless it's like in these systems that are crazy, like defense systems or other things, or energy systems. I wonder, like, but even there might be a way to engineer it. And this kind of gets into what I want to talk about, which is, so I'm non-technical. By default, all of my prompts are garbage in, garbage out. But I'm getting better and better at basically knowing what jargon to give it in order to get the right architecture. Still, the architecture thing is the main challenge of how do I actually architect an app without actually, now I've architected several apps, but they all have to be really small and really simple, because they have to solve one specific functionality, and they have to do it in a way that I can just put in Docker and then get a Docker over to my DigitalOcean and then get it up and running, deployed to the site. And so like I've got all these like hacks that I've done essentially to figure out how to do this.
Right.
My main blocker right now is what I just said. I have this one simple app that does one thing. Now I want to build larger apps, and I want to build complicated code bases. But the larger the code base gets, the more opportunity that it will hallucinate and do all these little things. And it's changing really fast. So I'm not sure this will be a problem for much longer, but I still think that there's a methodology that I need to build where I've gotten to the first piece of it now. I just need to start doing it, which is have the architectural conversation with Gemini or Claude outside it, or ChatGPT 5, probably now as well. When that first released, it seemed pretty bad. But now it seems to be better somehow. So I have that conversation with the architecture there. I then build it out into that architecture, and then I take just one little chunk and then bring that into Cursor. So really delimit it. So it's just like one part of that app that's inside of Cursor, because I recently learned that if you give the whole plan, to this thing, if you give it that whole plan, it actually messes with Cursor's ability to do things. So it's much better to be really atomic with giving Cursor its thing, or giving Claude its thing. You don't give it the whole plan. You just little bits, basically.
Like an intern.
Like an intern. Interesting. How is that like an intern?
You hire an intern and you have this grand vision for them to do. You give it to them all at once. They don't know what to do. You give them the first step and you say, do this. And then when you're done, let's talk about the next step.
I wish I had heard that before I had my first intern. Okay, so
but
yeah, go for it.
I think you're doing it the right way. I that's how I did with Cursor when I'm coding with Cursor. That's what I was doing too, chunk by chunk, get it working, then move to the next thing. With Claude Code and Codex, and I'm sure Cursor now has these features too, they're actually much better at keeping track of where they are. So I've kind of like evolved my strategy. Now I also start like you start in like ChatGPT 5 Pro,
a different one.
And like and
create
create this detailed plan. But then what I do is I put it in a markdown file in my directory, and I tell Claude Code, there's the plan, read it. And usually I go through this sequence. I explicitly tell it, first read every file related to this plan. And actually, to force it to read it, I say read the file and then document how it works in a new markdown file. Then I say plan what we need to do for this project. I also tell it to read similar code, because it repeats itself a lot, and you don't try, right? You don't want to reuse. It doesn't know to reuse. And then that's the point where I say, okay, then you can ask me any clarifying questions on the plan once you know the context of the code base. And then honestly, just do it. and it works surprisingly well. But the more you break it down, the better it's going to be. But these
Mm.
models, they're getting better at staying on track.
Mm. Yeah, it's really crazy how quickly it's all happening. Like, and this is why I tried to learn how to code about 10 years ago, and I did not enjoy it. And so I moved into a meditation retreat to try to focus on it, and actually like spent like a significant amount of like meditation retreat, and because I was getting off of Adderall at the time. And so I was like, or not, it wasn't Adderall, it was Ritalin. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. I gotta get this concentration. I used to use this thing for concentration. Instead, I'm going to go do a meditation retreat and basically figure out how to concentrate on my own. And I hated code so much that I did it for like 2 or 3 months, and then I finally just gave it up. And then as soon as ChatGPT came out, I was like, okay, this is it. This is the thing that I was missing this entire time, which is like when I was coding on my own in this Mexican meditation retreat, I couldn't ask anybody. There was nobody there to basically teach me how to do all these things. And so it's here now, and it keeps on getting faster. All the foundational labs are basically working on this stuff. So because they think that AGI is going to come through these coding tools. That's my understanding. I don't know if you think this is the same. My understanding is that these guys are spending billions of dollars, and they're really focused on Cursor. They're really focused on Claude Code. They're really focused on these coding agents because that's the first step to AGI. Because if we can have software code itself, that means that it can do all the other things, right? Because like, what is the science? What is all the science based on? It usually has a huge component in terms of expert software that those scientists use, or things in the lab, or their coding. It all came out of the academics and like the coding and stuff like that. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with it? What are some other thoughts?
I think that might be their marketing pitch.
Mm.
But I think maybe, I'm sure a lot of people believe that, but I think also just the simplest explanation is these models are trained on a lot of code. Code is easy
Mm.
to have a feedback loop where you see if it works, it doesn't work, and models are good at fixing problems. And they've just built really useful tools for programmers. They're programmers. They understand what programmers want. And I think Cursor popped off, then Claude Code popped off. So it would be crazy not to dive deeper into coding first.
Uh huh. Um, but like, what do you think about the scale and the speed at which it's happening? Like, what it's crazy, right? Like, is it important to learn how to code? Like, what's going on there?
It's a good question. I think if we're historically, how I look at it, it's a little bit bigger of a jump, but we started with ones and zeros, then machine
Mm.
code, then we went C, and the C programmers were criticized, and then we went to Python, and the Python programmers were criticized by the C coders, and the JavaScript coders were criticized by all of them. And I think now you have the Claude Code coders, the Vibe coders, who I it like you were saying, you still have to figure out the architecture and the tools to plug in and stuff like that. In the same way that an engineering manager might not be coding day to day, but is still like solving the right questions.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know how I'd learn to code today. I think if I was a little bit younger and if I think I was in school today, I don't think I'd do any of the projects. I don't know how, like, those nights on the operating systems projects, like, I'm just going to
And
chat GPT that.
this is the crazy thing, because I've been talking to students who are inside of the universities and who are on the side of the elite universities, and as of 4 months ago, the ones I were talking to are not using it at all, which is crazy. I don't know. Maybe you've this is only anecdotal sample, like, but are you talking to any students coming out of the universities right now? Are they using it?
So we have two engineers who are technically enrolled in college right now,
Oh, interesting.
and they're clearly not working. Like, not saying they were not working hard. They're
Yeah,
very smart, but they're
yeah,
they're full time with us.
yeah,
So they have to be doing something.
yeah.
But
They're learning it as a process of being part of the company, basically. Or were they already
yeah,
doing it? How did you? Yeah. Hmm.
no, they already knew. They have like not traditional stories. But I don't know. I When I was in school in like college and high school, like we had to write programming tests.
Mm.
That seems like a good move today.
Yeah, yeah,
And then let people do whatever they're doing in the background. I don't know. What about these others? Writing is probably the scarier thing than
yep,
programming.
yep.
Programming, like, yeah, you learn the concepts. I don't. Honestly, I have no idea I don't know how I'd learn today. I probably wouldn't, and then maybe I'd be better for that. Maybe I'd just be really good at vibe coding, and that's all you need.
Yeah. And it reminds me that there was a Neil Ferguson. He's a historian, a great historian, who wrote this book. What is it called? It's about money, Ascent of Money, and great book. Highly recommend it for you or any of the listeners. And he had this clip. It was a few months ago where he says we need to put people back in the clustorium or some sort of like he wants all
In the what?
education to in the clustorium or
Okay.
cloister or something like that, some like old school European thing where they would basically cloister themselves and like so that there's no technology allowed. Everybody does the writing and everything like that. And I like it, but he had a much more like ascetic, like a monk style thing
Yeah.
to it. Like I think something like that's important. I've been going on these retreats with friends where we go for a week to the beach or the mountains or something like that, and we basically make an agreement that we won't use the internet unless we like talk about it beforehand, and we can do everything else, but just no phones, no internet. It's amazing. It's like living in the '90s. And I think there'll be like things, and I think that's good for coding. The friend that I went on that retreat, he recently took a vibe coding retreat where he was like, "Oh, I'm losing all my skills. I'm gonna not use AI for the next 2 weeks, basically, to go back and sharpen the skills." Uh, um, and I think a lot of those things are gonna happen. Uh, what do you think? Are you a doomer? Are you an optimist? Acceleration? I imagine you're an accelerationist, or do you have any, or a secret third thing?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to choose one, acceleration is, but I
Yeah,
don't necessarily. I'm not too deep in. I'm an optimist. I'm
yeah,
not a doomer at all.
yeah,
I almost think it's just it's just Marxism, but that's a
yeah.
whole different topic. I I'm an optimist. I think we're going to lose a lot of people.
Mm.
I think
Mm.
if you think about the
Lose a
people
lot of
who
people
are
in terms of death or in terms of like just plugging in and never plugging out?
maybe both.
Both. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
The amount of people who we lost during COVID, not from
Mm.
dying from COVID, but from
Mm.
just getting stuck in the basement and they never came out.
Mm.
AI girlfriends are going to be really good. That's why I keep my
Yeah.
ChatGPT on a male voice. You know, I don't want to fall in love, and I think like I don't know. I this like all these tweets. I don't know if you've seen of the like one shotted of like
Mm.
ChatGPT who's just
Hmm.
ramps up people's schizophrenia. I think that's
Yep.
real. I think there's probably a solid probability that the only people who survive are Orthodox Jews who keep the Sabbath and don't use their phone one day a week, and
Mm.
maybe they'll be saved.
Mm.
But
Or the Mennonites. The other one is there is the Mennonites.
okay, so they got
The Amish.
right the
Who,
Amish.
yeah.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
survive too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's totally a valid argument of atrophying your critical thinking skills and using ChatGPT for actual like decision making is kind
Mm.
of scary, and you see people doing it too much.
Hmm. Mm.
I'm still an optimist. I think just it's gonna we could just do so much more as a society, and I don't think these things are zero sum. And I think there's gonna be more need for jobs, not less. But there's definitely there's some dangers.
Yeah. Great points. The one shotting thing, yeah, that's very much real. I recorded a great, it was a little bit bizarre, but it's also a good interview, I think, with my friend Lord Asado, who goes by Lord Asado, who's actually an American who got trapped in Argentina in the best way possible. And he has an online handle called Lord Asado, and Asado is barbecue.
Yeah.
So he in the Asado is Argentine particular barbecue, and they really like their barbecues here. So he has did a lot of investigation on this one shot GPT psychosis, very real. He actually there was before this most recent upgrade to GPT-5. He actually found this prompt that people were using in order to unlock that specific thing that goes into the GP psychosis, and actually played with it as a sort of like, let me figure out what's really going on. And it had him actually develop software. So like turn him into a vibe coder. He's already a programmer, but this interaction with this prompt actually had him build software to go spread its message. And like and like all the step by step processes of how you get this on Vercel and all these different things, it's pretty wild. And so it's like, and the other crazy thing he shared with me is that a lot of the language, the Jeff, what is his name? Jeff. There's a VC who I kind of respect as well, who went through the,
Lewis.
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that
He
was a sad one.
and that language that he used is part of this crazy Reddit game that got inside of the training data. So that language is like specific to this strange online game that talks about recursion and all these different things.
Wow.
And it's like, and it's just, they're just accessing that part of the neural network, and it's turning on a psychosis. And it's so weird. This one shot is real, and that was presage. I don't know. Did you spend much time? I think you're in New York now. Did you spend much time in San Francisco before 2020?
Yeah. I went to Berkeley for 3 or 4 years there, so I've seen the Valley of the Beast for sure.
Yeah. So because at that time, all of these things that we're now dealing with were all talked about as a sort of like a counterfactual or a philosophy, or like, you know, these things could potentially happen, and like
the Turing test.
What do you mean?
The Turing test of like, will AI ever trick humans to thinking it's human? We blew past that. Nobody cares.
But also like the treating it like AI God basically, or like those types of things. Like these are all things that the singularity people have been talking about for a long time. And I always wonder like how much of it is just the predictive programming from those conversations being had, and how much of it is real. And I always find that reality usually is of the surprising variety. Like it always surprises us in the way that it actually happens. And so it's pretty interesting. What do you like philosophy? Are you into philosophy stuff, or mostly technical, or what's the deal there?
I was never a big philosophy reader. Taleb is like the closest thing I've gotten to. I like history a lot. So it touches on some of those things, but I'm not well versed in a lot of the
What are you reading in history now?
Right now I'm reading The Revolt by Menachem Begin.
Interesting.
Who talks about kind of the struggle for independence against the British in Israel.
Interesting. Before 1940,
48.
48.
Yeah. And then he was later the prime minister. But you can only find this really small version of the book, so it's hard. But I like those like really random history books. It's like.
And what's your favorite era of his? Actually, let me back that up. Let's relate it to what we were just talking about in terms of the sort of singularity type of stuff. A lot of people like. Do you think liberalism is going to survive? Do you think this idea of having democracy or republic? Because a lot of the people on the right are talking about neo-feudalism, and a lot of people on the left, I would say, aren't talking about it. But I think their fundamental drive is towards what I'm calling neo-indigenism, which is like instead of tribalism, because tribalism kind of you can't really say that word without having a lot of things being associated with it. But it's almost like going back to those pre-civilizational structures. And then we got liberalism. Where are you? What do you think is going to happen? If you care to speculate, you don't have to speculate.
I'm happy to. It's kind of fun, but what's going to happen? I mean, I certainly hope the West and the freedom and democracy survives. Liberalism, classic liberalism survives. Like I said, I was in the belly of the beast of Berkeley, of the people who don't want it to survive, at least on one side. If we want to get, I mean, AI, I think, is only part of that story. But I see a lot of countries disappearing in the future. But I'm bullish. I'm bullish on America surviving here in liberalism, and I think AI will help it. I think green is the ultimate unifier for a lot of things. And
what do you mean? Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Money has no race. And I think if AI really brings the boom that people are talking about, and I think it will, it's gonna solve a lot of our jobs problems. It's gonna solve a lot of our debt problems, and as long as we win.
Yeah, the America thing is really interesting because I think I think we're headed for decentralization, and I don't think decentralization in the Somali version, like that's not a decentralization. I think we're headed to a functioning decentralization where this idea, Yeah, so basically, power right now, because of the radio and the TV, have been very centralized. So with the radio, basically centralized power among FDR, Bismarck, the European guys, all those things, and then it's centralized power. FDR essentially created a large administrative state, which didn't exist previously. And then the TV come in, and the TV rapidly increased what the radio was already doing. But now the TV's dead, and like you can't broadcast thoughts into hundreds of millions of people. Like that was the scale we were talking about earlier. I think it was like 140 million people tuned in to the Nixon Kennedy debate, and then like 70 to 90 million tuned in, or 100 million to Seinfeld, the last season finale of Seinfeld. And then since those
watched
points,
it on Times Square. And
yeah, it was like full on. Everybody's attention is right on this thing, and we no longer have that. COVID was the last point at which the whole worldwide attention was all focused on one thing for a long time. But now it's like splintered. And so that's the media technology. And I think media technology is a technology that rules all the other technology. So I think we're just going to basically splinter into a lot of different cultures. Like, I don't think one culture is going to survive. I don't think like a nation state culture is going to be around for a lot longer. Now what that means politically, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't know if it's over. I think there's still a few events that kind of Butler, that probably was pretty tuned into, but not at once, I guess, is kind of the main point. My view on all this, if we want to get super high level, is that I think social media is going to implode. I think a lot of things on the internet, I don't think my kids will be on social media. Not because they don't want to, but I just, how long it's existed for how long? 10 years, 20 years, whatever. Yep. Let's just call it one generation. It's been it's been 3,000 years since Sinai. We're not like, it might not last that long. And chances are it's not Lindy, it's not something that's existed forever. I could see it imploding, and I don't think fragmentation is necessarily a bad thing. You're probably right. I think but I think there's a world where you can have these fragmented cultures, and maybe that's even a better thing than a purely multicultural.
That's really cool.
You can have both, maybe. I don't know.
Fragmented culture versus multicultural. That's interesting. Yeah, because it's social media. But like, do you think the group chat will go away? What do you mean by social media when you say that?
Okay, I mean, so I don't know when this is going to come out, so it might not be a timely reference, but this week everybody scrolled through 2 prominent deaths on Twitter, and they saw these videos. This is not a natural thing, and there's one way to think about it, meaning we open Pandora's box, but there's another way to think about it, meaning the whole concept of someone, like you just said, there's no countrywide phenomenon like Seinfeld finale, but there are global phenomena like a Kanye tweet that everybody in the world knows about. Yeah. And it's way less natural to be known by billions of people. And
interesting. Some things still get through the virality chain. So there is like 150 million or 200 million or maybe even 1 billion who do find out about something, but it's random shit like a Kanye tweet or I mean, usually it is like a very like emotional event. It has to be emotional, otherwise it won't spread.
Yeah.
But this
more than a billion.
More than a billion. Who like more than a billion people paying attention to the same thing over a period of like a week or a month, not all there at the same time. I don't know. I don't know if there's 1 billion people that are paying attention to the same thing.
How many people paid attention to the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania on Trump?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, or the election itself too. Yeah, 1 billion people know that Trump was elected as president. Maybe 3 billion people probably know about it.
Which I think what you said of like there's no more big events is true, there's only huge events and small events.
Yeah, interesting. And the AI stuff is going to play right into this because the LLMs will basically, I very clearly see in a world in like 2 to 5 years, at least I'm going to build this for myself, where I have an agent mediating all communications for me. And that if I do know somebody personally, that they can break through. And then I also see that for social media. I can't wait for that time to happen because I have this podcast and I want to share this podcast. But I also, every time, all the social media companies, they all make sure that I can't delegate that to another human being. I have to like work around their interactions to make sure that I don't actually enter their snake pit, because their thing is to basically grab my attention, make sure that it's focused on what they want, so they can fraud their way through advertisements. So I can't wait for that world to be destroyed, and I think I can do it, and I think agents are going to play a really important role. Do you see that same place, or do you want that, or is that no?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter's already a lot of AI written content, including. I mean, I do it in a smart way, but including myself partially, and the more everything. That's what I like. I believe social media was gonna implode before AI, but now I see it happening through AI because if everything's AI slop, what do you need to use it anymore? I'm gonna go back to news by just hearing what people are talking in the coffee shop. That might be the most reliable thing. I think it's a power law. It's like it also might be like you were saying, like podcast, like the dystopian version is that only what's in ChatGPT's training data is the popular stuff, and now we kind of have this like you either get Joe Rogan or the New York Times podcast, and there's no in between.
Yeah. And there's a great Cloudflare interview with Matthew Prince. Matthew Prince you saw this. He's specifically trying to stop this future by trying to play hardball with Google. He told Google that you no longer can have your AI search crawlers. You got to pay to play. So you've got to pay all these content guys that Cloudflare has like 30% of internet traffic running through their servers for the DNS protection. And so they basically told Google, you guys have to pay these content. You have to pay the content that you're slurping into the model right now. And OpenAI has actually done a deal with them. So OpenAI is paying for it. So that he's trying to stave off that future, basically. It might just be his marketing as well, but it's pretty good marketing. We're entering some really interesting times, and we probably got about 5 minutes left. I have been wanting to make bets on. We talked a lot of things that we can talk about in terms of if you want to make a bet. You don't have to. There's no commitment here. Are you familiar with Polymarket, Kashi, or Manifold Markets?
I lost a lot of money on Kashi.
Oh, so you are actually okay. This is the one I have not used yet. What is Kashi? What is the difference between Kashi, Polymarket, and Manifold?
I know that Kashi is the one I can legally use as an American in America with US dollar.
Oh, interesting. So it's probably not even crypto. So Polymarket's the crypto.
It's not crypto.
Correct. It's the crypto alternative to Kashi. Okay, interesting. So Manifold is the way that we could, if we wanted to do a bet, we could make a bet on Manifold. Is there anything in like the 1 to 3 year or 1 to 3 month timeline that you're thinking about in terms of announcements, in terms of prompts, in terms of evaluations that are coming out that at least you could give me ideas to make bets on? Think about the Beam meme. Let's bet on the shit from Adam Sandler.
I can give you a little bigger than 1 to 3, and then maybe we'll work backwards. Yeah. Like a high level, I think there's gonna be more models, not less. I strongly don't believe in the monotheist view of LLMs. It's
going to be a polytheistic model universe.
For sure. Yeah. Some are going to be good at small models. Some are going to be good at big. Random signal. I mean, I've always been bullish on OpenAI. And actually, at the beginning, early days, I was kind of bearish on Anthropic because I had one conversation with someone there and they're like, we could have done ChatGPT 2, but we chose not to for safety reasons. And I'm like, that's loser talk. But having said that, I know a lot of smart people who just started working at Anthropic. So that's always a good leading indicator of good things.
I think they're winning. I personally think they're winning.
Yeah, the models are great.
Yeah.
I use them a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so I like that idea. That's a good like long-term bet. I'm trying to improve my ability to learn through betting, and I need to do it on shorter cycles. And I'm not sure how to bring a polytheistic universe into a 1 to 3 month. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, there's always the like model provider bets of like who's gonna have the best model in next month, who's gonna release. Probably some interesting things around Meta, what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah, Meta is probably doing something that they could release because they're trying to get something out there quickly to catch up. That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
we're
I
probably
could,
due for a new DeepSeek.
yeah, the
Or
Chinese have been relatively quiet, although apparently
yeah,
GLM is apparently pretty good.
yeah, and there's like
Are
a
you playing
Kiwi
around?
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, this is all good fodder for the eventual bet I'm going to make. I could make a bet on the October elections for Javier Milei, but I could, the bet I'm thinking about is making is whether he gets more or less than 50% of the midterm election Congress seats. Uh, there was a big scandal about a month ago, and then he recently lost a very big election in the largest
Hmm.
province. So a lot of people are starting to doubt whether it's real or not. And I still think it's gonna happen. I think they're gonna have more than 50%. But
Put your money where your mouth is.
yeah, exactly. That's I gotta actually do it, which is I'm hesitant on all of it. Okay, thank you so much for coming on the show. How can our listeners find out more about you?
Thank you for having me. This was fun. You can find me on X on Twitter at JAREDZ. I'm Jared Z. PromptLayer.com. You can sign up for PromptLayer for free. You could use it for free. We have a lot of hackers and hobbyists using it. We also have a lot of enterprise teams, so you can start for free, try it out. Otherwise, yeah, you can reach me at jared@promptlayer.com.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.